You think a millionaire's mind is built through discipline. You think it is forged in early mornings, cold showers, and years of grinding effort. You think that if you just work harder than everyone around you, one day the wealth will finally arrive. But you're wrong. Wealth was never installed through effort. It was installed through repetition in the one place where your defenses fall silent. And the place where your defenses fall silent is not the gym, not the office, not the hustle. It is the moment right before you fall asleep. There is a silent force that shapes your entire financial life while your body rests and your conscious mind lets go. Most people never touch it. They spend their days building, striving, forcing, and then they sleep. And they hand those 8 hours to fear, to worry, to the same tired loop of lack that they carried all day long. But there is another way. There is a doorway that opens every single night. A doorway into the deepest architecture of who you are. And through that doorway, you can install an entirely new mind. I call it the Midnight Blueprint. It is not a technique, it is a law. And once you understand it, you will never sleep the same way again. Here is the truth: most people will die without knowing. You do not become wealthy by what you do while awake. You become wealthy by what you rehearse while asleep. You are not rewarded for how hard you push. You are rewarded for what you have already become in the silence. Listen closely, because this is the part that should frighten you. Every night that you fall asleep rehearsing your fears, you are installing poverty. Every night that you drift off replaying what went wrong, what you lack, what you cannot afford, you are programming the exact life you are trying to escape. Your subconscious does not sleep. It builds, and it will build whatever blueprint you hand it in the final moments of your day, whether that blueprint is abundance or ruin. So let me ask you the question that this entire message will answer, the question you must not answer yet. If your mind is being programmed every single night, whether you like it or not, then who has been holding the pen while you sleep? For most of your life, you have believed a lie so common that no one ever questions it. You have believed that the mind is one single thing, one voice, one thinker sitting behind your eyes making choices. But you are made of two minds, and only one of them ever sleeps. There is the conscious mind, the one reading these words, the one that plans and doubts and argues and worries. That mind is loud, but it is weak. It runs the smallest fraction of your life. And then there is the other mind, the deep one, the ancient one, the one that never turns off, never questions, never rests. That mind runs your heartbeat and your breathing and your habits and your reactions. That mind runs the 95% of your life that happens automatically, without a single decision on your part. And here is what almost no one understands. That deeper mind does not think. It does not weigh evidence. It does not decide what is true. It simply accepts whatever is handed to it often enough, with enough feeling, and then it builds your life around that acceptance. Napoleon Hill said that the subconscious mind will translate into reality a thought driven by emotion, just as readily whether that thought is negative or positive. It does not judge. It does not filter. It obeys. And this is why two people can work the same job, live in the same city, have the same opportunities, and one rises into wealth while the other stays trapped in lack for 40 years. It was never about the effort. It was about which blueprint each of them had installed in the silent architect that runs the show. The book of Proverbs tells us that as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Notice the word. Not as a man thinks in his head, in his heart, in the deep place. In the part of you that keeps believing something long after your conscious mind has moved on. The heart in Scripture is not the organ that pumps blood. It is the seat of your deepest convictions, the soil where your true beliefs take root. And whatever is planted in that soil is what grows into your life, whether you want it to or not. So the real question is not whether your subconscious is powerful. It is. The real question is, what has been planted there and who did the planting? Because if you did not consciously choose the beliefs that run your financial life, then someone else chose them for you. Your parents chose them, with every anxious word they spoke about money at the dinner table. Your childhood chose them. In every moment you watched adults panic over bills. The world chose them with 1,000 quiet messages that told you wealth was for other people, that money was dangerous, that wanting more was greedy, that you should be grateful for scraps and never reach for the feast. Those beliefs went in when you were too young to defend yourself, and they have been running your life ever since. But here is the mercy hidden in all of this. If a mind can be programmed, a mind can be reprogrammed. If a blueprint was installed, a blueprint can be replaced. And the doorway to that replacement opens every single night, right on schedule, whether you use it or not. Let me tell you what happens in your brain in the final minutes before sleep, because once you understand this, you will guard those minutes like they are made of gold. As your body begins to rest, your brain waves slow down. The loud, analytical, doubting frequency that governs your waking hours begins to fade, and in its place a softer, slower, more open frequency rises. In this state, the wall between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind grows thin. The gatekeeper that spends all day rejecting new ideas, arguing with them, filtering them, that gatekeeper grows drowsy and steps aside. And for a few precious minutes, the door to the deep mind stands wide open. Whatever you feel in that window, whatever you rehearse, whatever image you hold with emotion, goes straight past the guard and plants itself in the soil where your life is grown. This is the most powerful moment of your entire day, and almost everyone wastes it. They spend it scrolling through images of lives they envy. They spend it replaying arguments and regrets. They spend it worrying about money, tallying what they owe, feeling the tight grip of not enough. And then they wonder why nothing changes, why the same struggles repeat year after year like a song stuck on a loop. They are programming lack at the exact moment they have the most power to program abundance. Napoleon Hill said that the subconscious mind is most receptive in the twilight state between waking and sleep, and that the person who learns to plant deliberate seeds in that state holds a power that most people never even suspect exists. He was not speaking poetically. He was describing a mechanism as real as gravity. Jesus said that whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Believe that you have received it. Not hope, not beg. Believe you already have it. That is the language of the deep mind. It does not respond to wishing, it responds to the felt certainty that a thing is already done. And there is no easier time to feel that certainty than in the drifting quiet before sleep, when the doubting mind has finally gone silent and you are free to feel, without argument, that the thing you desire is already yours. This is the midnight blueprint at work. You are not asking the universe for wealth. You are rehearsing the inner reality of a person who is already wealthy, so that your deep mind accepts that identity as fact and begins, night after night, to reorganize your entire life to match it. If this is landing in your spirit right now, if you can feel the truth of it settling into your bones, then pause for one moment and write one word in the comments. Write the word awake. Because most people are asleep to this even while they are wide awake. And the moment you understand it, you are awake for the first time. Write it, and let it mark the moment your new mind began. There was a man in Scripture who understood the midnight blueprint long before anyone had words for it, though he did not learn it in comfort. He learned it in a pit. His name was Joseph, and he was the favored son, the dreamer, the boy who carried a vision of his own greatness so vividly that he could not stop speaking it. His brothers hated him for it. They stripped him, threw him into a pit, and sold him into slavery in a foreign land. Everything in his outer world screamed that his dream was dead. He was a slave. Then he was a prisoner, thrown into a dungeon for a crime he did not commit. Years passed in that darkness. And here is what I want you to understand about Joseph, because it is the secret that separates the wealthy mind from the poor one. In that dungeon, when every external fact contradicted his vision, Joseph did not let go of the inner image. He kept the blueprint alive in the deep place. He fell asleep in a prison, but he did not fall asleep as a prisoner. He fell asleep as a man who still carried a future no chains could touch. And slowly, impossibly, the outer world began to bend to the inner image he refused to release. He rose to interpret the dreams of others. He rose to stand before Pharaoh. He rose to become the second most powerful man in all of Egypt, the very greatness his soul had rehearsed while his body lay in chains. The circumstances did not create Joseph's rise. The unshakable inner image did. He held the blueprint through the pit, through the slavery, through the prison. and the blueprint held him. Napoleon Hill said that cherished visions and ardent desires, held in the mind and fed with faith, gather to themselves the forces necessary to bring them into physical reality. Joseph fed his vision with faith for 13 years in the dark, and the forces gathered. Now hear this, because this is where it becomes personal. Your pit is not permanent. Your dungeon is not your destination. But you must not let the walls around you become the walls inside you. You must not fall asleep as a prisoner of your circumstances. Whatever your outer life looks like tonight, whatever the bank account says, whatever the bills say, whatever the voices of doubt say, you have a choice in the final moments before sleep. You can rehearse the pit, or you can rehearse the palace. You can fall asleep as a slave to your conditions, or you can fall asleep as the person your soul was created to become. The deep mind does not know the difference between your outer circumstances and the inner reality you feed it with feeling. It only knows what you rehearse, so rehearse the palace. Even in the pit, rehearse the palace. Now let me give you the first practice, because knowledge without practice is just entertainment. And you did not come here to be entertained. You came here to be changed. Tonight, when you lie down and feel your body begin to soften into the mattress, I want you to do something most people never think to do. I want you to breathe. Not the shallow, anxious breathing of a mind that is still bracing for tomorrow, but slow, deep, deliberate breaths that tell your body it is safe to let go. Breathe in slowly to the count of 4. Feel the air fill your chest. Hold it for a moment at the top, gently, without strain. Then release it slowly to the count of 6, letting your shoulders drop, letting your jaw unclench, letting the whole weight of the day pour out of you into the bed beneath you. Do this 3 times, and with each exhale, feel yourself sinking deeper into that soft twilight place where the door to the deep mind swings open. And now, in that quiet, do not ask for anything. Do not beg. Instead, speak to your deep mind the way a king speaks, with calm authority. Say to yourself silently or in a whisper, "Wealth flows to me easily and abundantly. Money finds me because I am a person money is drawn to. I am becoming more and more each night the person my prosperity requires." And as you say these words, do not just say them, feel them. Feel what it would feel like to be that person. Feel the ease in your chest. Feel the quiet confidence of someone who knows deep down that they will always be provided for. That feeling is the seed. The words are only the shell. It is the feeling that penetrates the soil of the deep mind and takes root there while you sleep. Napoleon Hill said that autosuggestion is the agency of control through which an individual may voluntarily feed the subconscious mind with thoughts of a creative nature, and that the emotion mixed into those thoughts is what gives them their power. The words carry the instruction, the feeling carries the force. So tonight, plant the seed with feeling, and then let go. Do not lie there anxiously wondering if it worked. That anxiety is itself a different seed, a seed of doubt, and you do not want to plant that one. Plant the seed of abundance, feel it fully, and then release it into the care of the mind that never sleeps. Trust that while your body rests, the silent architect is already at work, already reorganizing, already building the life that matches the image you have given it. You have done your part. Now let the deep mind do its part. This is not effort. This is surrender to a law that has always been working, only now it is working for you instead of against you. There is a reason the deep mind responds to identity more than to desire. And to understand it, you have to understand a shepherd boy who became a king. David was the youngest of 8 sons, the one left in the fields with the sheep, while his brothers were called to greater things. He was overlooked. He was underestimated. When the prophet came to anoint the next king of Israel, David was not even invited to the lineup. His own father did not think to include him, and yet, out in those fields, alone with the sheep and the stars, something was being formed in David that no palace could have taught him. He was rehearsing a version of himself that the world could not yet see. When a lion came for the flock, he did not run. When a bear came, he did not tremble. He faced them and he defeated them, and each victory in the dark, unseen, unwitnessed by any crowd, was quietly installing an identity. By the time he stood before the giant Goliath, David was not pretending to be brave. He had already become brave in 1,000 silent moments no one ever saw. While an entire army of trained soldiers stood frozen in fear, this shepherd boy walked toward the giant with a calm that made no sense to anyone watching, because they were looking at his outer size and he was operating from his inner identity. He did not see himself as a boy facing a giant. He saw himself as a servant of a limitless God, and from that identity, the impossible became inevitable. Napoleon Hill said that you will become as small as your controlling desire, or as great as your dominating aspiration, and that what the mind holds as its ruling identity, it moves relentlessly to fulfill. David held the identity of a giant slayer before there was any evidence for it, and the evidence came to meet the identity. This is the secret the deep mind is waiting for you to understand. It does not build your life around what you want. It builds your life around who you believe you are. You can want wealth desperately every single day and stay poor, because underneath the wanting is an identity that says, I am someone who struggles. I am someone who barely gets by. I am someone for whom money is always hard. The deep mind hears that identity, not the wish, and it faithfully builds a life to match the identity. So the work is not to want harder. The work is to become someone new in the silent place, night after night, until the deep mind accepts the new identity as simply true. And the fastest way to install a new identity is to fall asleep as that person, again and again, until your mind can no longer tell the difference between the rehearsal and the reality. If this stirs something in you, if you can feel an old identity beginning to crack and a new one beginning to form, then write 2 words in the comments right now. Write I am. Just those 2 words, because everything that follows I am is the blueprint your deep mind is building. Write I am and choose tonight what comes after it. Let me address the thing that is probably rising in your mind right now, the doubt that whispers this is too simple, that surely wealth requires more than lying in bed and feeling a feeling. And you are partly right. The blueprint is not the building, but no building has ever risen without a blueprint first. Here is what most people get backward. They think action creates the mindset. They think if they just start doing enough, eventually they will feel like a wealthy person. But it works the other way. The mindset creates the action. When your deep mind truly accepts a new identity, your actions change automatically, effortlessly, without you having to force them. The person who believes at the deepest level that they are wealthy does not have to struggle to wake up early, to seize opportunities, to make bold moves, to speak up, to ask for more. Those actions flow naturally from the identity, the way water flows downhill. But the person who is trying to act wealthy while feeling poor underneath is fighting themselves every single day, forcing behaviors that contradict their inner blueprint, and the inner blueprint always wins in the end. This is why willpower fails. This is why New Year's resolutions collapse by February. This is why people can read 100 books on success and still stay stuck. They are trying to change the fruit while the root stays the same. Jesus said that a good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit, and that each tree is known by its fruit. The fruit is your results. The tree is your identity. And the root hidden underground where no one can see it is the belief planted in your deep mind. You cannot glue new fruit onto a tree. You have to change the root. And the root is changed in the silence, in the twilight, in the surrendered moments before sleep when the deep mind is open and listening. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years studying more than 500 of the wealthiest people alive. And he said that the one thing they all had in common was not talent, not education, not luck, but a definite mental attitude, a settled inner conviction about who they were and what they were destined to have. They had installed the blueprint. And once it was installed, the wealth was not something they chased, it was something they attracted, because they had become the kind of person to whom wealth is naturally drawn. You attract not what you want. You attract what you are. Say that again in your heart. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. And what you are is being decided every night in the final moments before you fall asleep. Now I want to take you deeper into the practice, because there is a second layer to the Midnight Blueprint that multiplies its power, and it is the layer of visualization. Words spoken to the deep mind are powerful, but images pressed into the deep mind are even more powerful, because the deep mind thinks in pictures, not in sentences. It is why your dreams are visual. It is why a single image can move you to tears faster than a paragraph. So tonight, after you have breathed yourself into that soft twilight place, after you have spoken your calm words of authority, I want you to build a scene. Close your eyes and see it. See yourself waking up in the home you truly desire, not the one you can currently afford, but the one your soul longs for. Feel the sheets. See the light coming through the windows. Walk through the rooms in your mind. See the bank balance that no longer causes fear, but causes gratitude. See yourself giving generously, helping your family, blessing the people you love, funding the dreams you have had to postpone. See the ease on your own face. Feel what it feels like to move through a day with no financial fear, no tightness in the chest, no dread when the phone rings. Make it real, make it detailed, make it emotional. Because the more vivid and the more felt the image, the more completely the deep mind accepts it as a memory of something that has already happened. And here is the strange and beautiful truth. The deep mind does not distinguish between a memory of the past and a vividly imagined scene of the future. To the deep mind, a clearly felt image is simply real, and it goes to work making your outer life match the reality it now believes in. Napoleon Hill said that the imagination is the workshop wherein are fashioned all plans created by man, and that the impulse of desire is given shape and form and action through the imaginative faculty of the mind. Your imagination is not a toy, it is a workshop. It is the sacred forge where your future is being hammered into shape every night. In Genesis, we read that in the beginning, before anything visible existed, the Spirit of God moved over the face of the deep, and God spoke, and the invisible became visible. You are made in that image. You carry that same creative capacity within you. Before your new life becomes visible in the world, it must first exist vividly in the deep of you. First the image, then the manifestation. First the inner reality, then the outer proof. This is the order of all creation, and you have been given the power to use it. So use it tonight. Do not fall asleep to the images of fear that the world hands you. Fall asleep to the image of the life you were created to live, and let the deep mind build toward it while you rest. I want to pause here, not to interrupt what is building in you, but to deepen it. Because right now, as these words settle into your spirit, something is happening. A door that has been shut for years is beginning to open, and I have watched this message reach people at the exact moment they needed it. People who were one night away from giving up on the idea that their life could ever be different, and something in these words reminded them that the architect inside them never stopped working. If this message is reaching you like that tonight, then do something small that carries a large meaning. Tap the like on this video, not for me, but as a signal to your own deep mind, a small act of agreement that says, yes, I am claiming this, I am choosing a new blueprint. And if you have not yet subscribed, subscribe now, so that night after night, these words can return to you and keep the new blueprint alive. Because a seed planted once and never watered rarely grows. But a seed watered nightly becomes a tree that reshapes your entire life. This is how the new mind is built, not in one dramatic night, but in the quiet faithfulness of returning again and again to the truth until the truth becomes who you are. Now let me tell you about a prophet who learned that the deepest transformation often comes not in the fire, but in the stillness that follows it. His name was Elijah, and he was a man of tremendous power. He had called down fire from heaven. He had stood alone against hundreds. He had seen God move in ways most people only read about. But then, exhausted and afraid, he collapsed in the wilderness and asked to die. He was empty. He had given everything and had nothing left. And in that low place, God did not come to him in the earthquake. God did not come in the wind that tore the mountains. God did not come in the fire. God came in a still, small voice, a gentle whisper that could only be heard once everything loud had gone silent. And this is the secret Elijah discovered that you must never forget. The voice that changes your life does not shout, it whispers, and you can only hear a whisper in silence. All day long your life is loud. The noise of obligations, the roar of worry, the constant chatter of the doubting mind. In all that noise, the deeper voice, the creative voice, the voice that carries your true blueprint, cannot be heard. But at night, when the world goes quiet and the loud mind grows drowsy, the whisper can finally reach you. This is why the moments before sleep are sacred. It is the one time in your day when it is quiet enough to hear the still, small voice, and quiet enough for that voice to plant something new. Do not fill that silence with your phone. Do not fill it with worry. Guard it. Because in that silence, the whisper is waiting to build. There is a mistake that even sincere people make when they first learn about the deep mind, and I need to warn you about it, because it can quietly sabotage everything. The mistake is trying too hard. You lie down, you begin your affirmations, you start your visualization, and then some part of you begins to strain, begins to push, begins to demand that it work right now, tonight, immediately. And that straining is itself a message to the deep mind, a message that says, I do not really believe this. I am desperate. I am afraid it will not come. Desperation is the vibration of lack, and lack cannot install abundance. This is the paradox at the heart of the Midnight Blueprint. The seed is planted with feeling, but it grows through surrender. You plant it, and then you let go. You speak your truth with calm authority. You feel the reality of your new identity, and then you release it completely, trusting that the mind that never sleeps will do its work without your supervision. A farmer does not dig up the seed every night to check if it is growing. He plants it and he trusts the soil, and he sleeps in peace while the seed does in the dark what seeds do. You must learn to do the same. Napoleon Hill said that faith is a state of mind which may be induced by autosuggestion, and that it is the head chemist of the mind, the force that gives thought its power to become real. But faith and anxiety cannot occupy the same space. Where one is, the other cannot be. So the practice is not to push harder. The practice is to plant and then to rest in faith. Scripture says, be still and know that I am God. Be still, not strive, not force. Be still and know. The knowing is the faith, and the stillness is the soil in which the faith takes root. So tonight, when you do your practice, if you feel that old anxious grip beginning to tighten, if you feel yourself starting to demand and strain, take a breath and let it go. Speak your words gently. Hold your image lightly. Feel the truth of it, and then surrender it to the deep mind like a farmer surrendering a seed to the soil. Your only job is to plant and to believe. The growing is not your job. The growing belongs to the silent architect, and it never stops working, not for 1 second of the night, on behalf of the one who plants in faith and rests in peace. Consider Abraham, a man who was asked to believe something that seemed impossible. He was old, his wife was old, and God told him he would become the father of many nations, as numerous as the stars in the sky. Every visible fact contradicted the promise. His body was past the age of children. His wife had never conceived. By every measure the world uses, the promise was absurd. And yet Scripture tells us that Abraham did not waver through unbelief, but grew strong in his faith, being fully convinced that God was able to do what he had promised. Notice the phrase, fully convinced, not hopeful, not trying to believe, fully convinced, in the deep place before there was a single shred of evidence. Abraham installed the blueprint of a father of nations when he was a childless old man, and he held that blueprint through decades of waiting, and the deep conviction eventually became flesh in the child of promise. This is the pattern woven through every story of transformation in Scripture. The inner reality comes first, held with unshakable faith, and the outer reality follows. Napoleon Hill said that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And the word he chose was not merely conceive, because conceiving is easy. The word that carries the power is believe. Anyone can imagine wealth for a moment. The wealthy mind believes it in the deep place, believes it the way Abraham believed, fully convinced before the evidence arrives. And this is why the nightly practice matters so much. You do not become fully convinced in a single evening. Conviction is built through repetition, through returning to the same truth night after night, until it stops being something you are trying to believe and becomes something you simply know. Each night you fall asleep in the felt reality of your new identity, you are laying another brick in the foundation of an unshakable conviction. And one night, without any drama, you will notice that you are no longer trying to believe you are prosperous. You will simply feel that you are, the way you feel your own name. That is the moment the blueprint is truly installed. That is the moment the deep mind stops being handed an instruction and starts operating from a settled truth. And from that moment forward, everything in your outer life begins to rearrange itself to match the person you have become in the silence. If you are feeling that conviction starting to build in you, even faintly, even as just a flicker, then write one word in the comments to strengthen it. Write the word convinced. Because the moment you declare it, you begin to become it, and the deep mind hears the declaration and starts building toward it while you sleep. You may wonder why sleep specifically. Why not simply repeat affirmations all day long? And the answer lies in the way your mind actually works, in the difference between the guard who stands at the door and the treasury he protects. All day long, your conscious mind stands guard over the entrance to your deep mind. That guard has one job: to keep out anything that contradicts what you already believe. When you say "I am wealthy" while you feel poor, the guard hears the contradiction and throws the statement out before it ever reaches the treasury. This is why saying affirmations in front of the mirror often feels hollow and changes nothing. You are shouting at a locked door with an alert guard standing in front of it. But at night, as you drift towards sleep, that guard grows tired. He begins to nod off. The door he protects swings quietly open. And now whatever you feel and rehearse walks straight past him into the treasury of the deep mind, where beliefs become the blueprint of your life. This is the single greatest reason the moments before sleep are more powerful than any other moment in your day. It is the one time the guard steps aside and the deep mind lies open and receptive. Napoleon Hill understood this precisely. He taught that the subconscious mind may be voluntarily influenced most easily in the drowsy state just before sleep, when the reasoning mind relaxes its grip and the emotions have direct access to the deeper faculties. He was describing what happens the moment the guard falls asleep. And so the wealthy mind is not built by fighting the guard all day. It is built by slipping past him each night, quietly, patiently, planting seed after seed in the open soil while the reasoning mind rests. This is why a single night will not transform you, and why you must not be discouraged if the first night feels like nothing happened. You are not looking for a lightning bolt. You are looking for a slow, patient accumulation, night after night, seed after seed, until the treasury of your deep mind is so full of the new blueprint that it overflows into every corner of your outer life. The prophet spoke of those who sow in tears and reap in joy, who go out weeping, carrying seed to sow and come home with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with them. The sowing and the reaping are separated by time. You sow in the silence of the night, often with no visible sign, and you reap in the fullness of time a harvest you can hardly believe. But the harvest is certain for the one who keeps sowing. So do not measure your progress by a single night. Measure it by your faithfulness to return, night after night, to the open door. Let me give you now the complete nightly ritual, the full midnight blueprint, so that you have it clearly and can begin tonight. When you lie down, before you reach for your phone, before you let the mind wander into worry, take control of the final minutes of your day. First, release the day. Take 3 slow, deep breaths, and with each exhale, let go of everything that happened, the frustrations, the failures, the things left undone. They belong to a day that is over. Let them go. Second, quiet the body. Feel your feet, your legs, your hands, your shoulders, and let each part soften and grow heavy, sinking into the bed until your whole body is at rest and the loud mind begins to fade. Third, speak your authority. In a calm, sure voice within, declare who you are becoming. Say, "I am a person to whom wealth flows easily. I am becoming more prosperous every day. I am safe. I am provided for. I am aligned with the abundance of God." Fourth, build the image. See the life you desire in vivid detail and step inside it, feeling the ease, the gratitude, the freedom, until it feels less like a hope and more like a memory of something already true. Fifth, give thanks. Thank God. as though the thing were already done, because gratitude is the emotion of the person who already has, and the deep mind cannot tell the difference between gratitude for what is and gratitude for what is coming. And sixth, release it all and sleep. Let go of the image, let go of the words, and simply drift into sleep in peace, trusting that the silent architect will work through the night. That is the ritual. 6 simple movements, done gently, taking only a few minutes, but repeated night after night. They will remake the deepest part of you. Napoleon Hill said that any idea, plan, or purpose may be placed in the mind through repetition of thought, and that the subconscious will act upon it, translating it into physical reality by the most practical means available. The most practical means available. You do not have to know how. You do not have to figure out the path. You plant the purpose through nightly repetition, and the deep mind, which has access to resources and ideas and opportunities your conscious mind cannot see, finds the way. Your job is the seed. The deep mind's job is the how. And it never fails to find a how for the seed that is planted faithfully enough. So make this ritual sacred. Make it the last thing you do before sleep, more faithfully than you check your phone, more faithfully than you replay your worries. Guard these minutes, because these minutes are quietly building the rest of your life. Now I know what some part of you is asking, because it is the question that haunts almost everyone who tries to change. What about the years you have already lost? What about the old blueprint that has been running for decades, all those nights you fell asleep in fear, all those years you programmed lack without even knowing it? Is it too late? Is the damage too deep? And I want to answer that question with the story of Gideon, because Gideon believed he was the least, the weakest, the most disqualified, and God saw something entirely different. When the angel came to Gideon, he was hiding, threshing wheat in a winepress out of fear, cowering from his enemies. And the angel greeted him with words that must have sounded absurd. He said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Mighty warrior. To a man hiding in a winepress, Gideon protested. He said his clan was the weakest, and he was the least in his family. He had every reason and every piece of evidence to believe he was nobody. But God was not speaking to the man Gideon saw when he looked in the mirror. God was speaking to the man Gideon was created to become. And when Gideon finally accepted that new identity, when he began to act from the blueprint God saw rather than the one his fear had built, he led an impossibly small band of men to a victory that should have been impossible, and he became exactly what the angel had called him, a mighty warrior. Here is what you must understand. It does not matter how long the old blueprint has been running. It does not matter how many nights you programmed lack. The deep mind is not fixed in concrete. It is living soil, and living soil can always grow something new. The old weeds may have deep roots, but consistent new planting, night after night, will crowd them out and replace them. Napoleon Hill said that it is a well-known fact that one comes, finally, to believe whatever one repeats to oneself, whether the statement be true or false, and that if a man repeats a lie over and over, he will eventually accept it as truth. If a lie repeated becomes belief, then how much more will the truth repeated night after night with feeling become the settled conviction of your deep mind? The years you lost were years the lie was being planted. But starting tonight, you can plant the truth, and the truth is stronger than the lie because the truth is what you were created for. It is never too late to change the blueprint, because the door opens again tonight and every night for the rest of your life. You are not too old. You are not too far gone. You are a field, and the planting season has come again. There is a force more powerful than any affirmation, more powerful than any visualization, and if you add it to your nightly practice, it will accelerate everything. That force is gratitude. Most people treat gratitude as a nice feeling, a pleasant thing to have, but gratitude is far more than that. Gratitude is the single emotion that most perfectly convinces the deep mind that you already have what you desire. Think about it. You do not feel grateful for things you lack. You feel grateful for things you possess. So when you generate genuine gratitude for the abundance coming into your life, before it has visibly arrived, you are speaking to the deep mind in the exact emotional language of a person who already has it. And the deep mind which does not question, simply accepts. This must be true, because look how grateful we feel, and it goes to work making the outer world catch up to the emotion. This is why Scripture tells us in everything to give thanks, and to enter His gates with thanksgiving. It is not merely a religious nicety, it is a spiritual law and a psychological key. The grateful heart is a magnet. So tonight, as part of your practice, do not only declare what you want and visualize it, also give thanks for it as though it has already come. Feel the warm swell of gratitude in your chest, as though you are looking back on the abundance from a place where it is already yours. Thank God for the provision. Thank God for the doors that are opening. Thank God for the wealth flowing to you and through you to bless others. And feel it. Let it be real. That feeling of gratitude, held in the twilight before sleep, is one of the most powerful seeds you can ever plant, because it carries the emotional signature of having, not the desperate ache of wanting. Napoleon Hill observed that the emotions of faith and gratitude are among the most powerful of all the positive emotions, and that when mixed with a definite desire, they give that desire an almost irresistible power to draw its physical equivalent toward the one who holds it. Wanting repels. Gratitude attracts. The person who lies awake wanting, aching, straining, is broadcasting lack. The person who lies down grateful, as though the gift has already been given, is broadcasting abundance, and the deep mind faithfully builds toward whatever is broadcast. So take a breath now, even now as you listen, and find one thing to be genuinely grateful for. Feel it, and know that this same feeling, brought to your practice each night and aimed at the life you are building, is one of the surest ways to reprogram the deepest part of you. But I must be honest with you about something, because if I only told you the beautiful part, I would be leaving you unprepared. When you begin to install a new blueprint, the old one will fight back. This is normal. This is expected. The old identity has run your life for years, and it does not surrender its throne quietly. In the first days and weeks of your practice, you may notice old fears rising louder than usual. You may catch yourself doubting more, worrying more, feeling the pull to quit. Do not be alarmed by this. It is not a sign that the practice is failing. It is a sign that it is working. The old blueprint is being disturbed, and it is resisting. Peter learned this on the water. When he stepped out of the boat and walked toward Jesus on the waves, he was operating from a new identity, an identity that could do the impossible, and for a moment, he walked on water. But then he saw the wind, he felt the storm, the old fear rushed back in and he began to sink. And Jesus reached out and caught him and said, "Why did you doubt?" Notice, Peter did not sink because the power was not real. He sank because he shifted his attention from the new reality back to the old fear. The moment his focus returned to the storm, the old blueprint reclaimed him. This is the great battle of transformation. Not a battle of effort, but a battle of attention. Where will you place your focus in the crucial moments? On the wind and the waves of your current circumstances, or on the truth you are installing? When the old fear rises, and it will, you do not fight it. You simply return your attention gently to the new blueprint. You feel the fear, you acknowledge it, and you turn back toward the image and the identity you are building. Every time you do this, you weaken the old and strengthen the new. Napoleon Hill said that you have absolute control over one thing, and that is your thoughts, and that this is the most significant and inspiring of all facts known to man, because it means that even when you cannot control your circumstances, you can always control where you place your mind. So when the storm comes, and it will come, do not panic. Do not conclude that it is not working. Return your gaze again and again to the truth. Keep your eyes on the new reality, and you will not sink. The wind will still blow, but you were made to walk on top of it, not to drown beneath it. There is a deeper reason the wealthy think differently, and it has to do with how they relate to money itself. Poverty is not only a lack of money. Poverty is often a hidden belief that money is bad, that wanting it is shameful, that having it will corrupt you, that spiritual people should not desire it. And as long as that belief lives in your deep mind, you will unconsciously push money away, even as you consciously chase it. You cannot attract what you secretly believe is evil. So let me set something free in you tonight. Money is not evil. Scripture does not say that money is the root of evil. It says the love of money, the disordered worship of it above God, is a root of evil. But money itself is simply a tool, a form of stored energy, a means of blessing. In the hands of a generous and God-aligned person, money feeds the hungry, builds the church, funds the mission, lifts the family, blesses the community. Abraham was rich. Isaac was rich. Job, after his testing, was restored to double. Solomon's wealth was a gift from God. The problem was never the wealth. The problem was ever letting the wealth become the God. When you release the guilt around money, when you begin to see it as a good tool in the hands of a good person, you remove the hidden resistance that has been quietly repelling it your whole life. You give your deep mind permission to receive. And this permission is essential because the deep mind will not deliver to you what a part of you believes you should not have. So as part of your reprogramming, install a new belief about money itself. Say to your deep mind, money is a good tool and I am a good steward. Wealth in my hands becomes a blessing to many. I am allowed to prosper. I am allowed to receive. Napoleon Hill said that the majority of people who fail to accumulate money remain poor because they have made peace with poverty, accepting it as their lot, and never truly giving themselves permission to be rich. Give yourself permission tonight. Permission to desire without shame. Permission to receive without guilt. Permission to become the prosperous steward God can trust with much, because you have proven faithful in your heart with the little. If you are ready to give yourself that permission, to release the old guilt and open your hands to receive, then write it in the comments. Write the words I receive. 2 simple words that break a lifetime of quiet refusal. Write, I receive, and let your deep mind hear that the door of receiving is finally open. Consider Moses, a man who spent 40 years believing he was a nobody before he ever became who he was meant to be. He had been a prince in Egypt, then a fugitive, then a shepherd in the wilderness, tending another man's flock in obscurity for 4 long decades. By the time God called him from the burning bush, Moses was so convinced of his own inadequacy that he argued. He said he was slow of speech, that no one would listen, that surely God had the wrong man. His self-image had been shaped by 40 years in the desert, and that self-image said small, unqualified, forgotten. But God was not calling the man Moses believed himself to be. God was calling the deliverer hidden inside him, the one who would stand before Pharaoh, part the sea, and lead a nation out of bondage. And here is the truth that took Moses time to accept, the truth you must accept faster than he did. Who you have been is not who you are meant to be. The self-image you carry, built from your past, from your failures, from the words others spoke over you, is not a prison sentence. It is a blueprint, and blueprints can be changed. Moses had to let the old image of the failed prince and the forgotten shepherd die, so that the new identity of the deliverer could take its place. And the same death and rebirth is available to you, not in a burning bush, but in the quiet fire of your nightly practice, where the old self-image is slowly released and a new one is patiently installed. Napoleon Hill said that our only limitations are those we set up in our own minds, and that the moment a person truly changes the image they hold of themselves, the outer conditions of their life begin to change to correspond. Moses changed the image, and a slave nation walked free. What might change in your life when you finally release the small image you have carried and let the deep mind install the person you were truly created to be? This is the invitation of every night, to lie down as the old self and to rise, over time, as the new, to let the forgotten shepherd fall asleep and to let the deliverer awaken. You are not your past. You are not the words spoken over you. You are not the failures you have collected. You are a field of infinite possibility, and tonight you get to decide what is planted. Let me tell you what actually happens in the hours after you fall asleep, because this is where the miracle quietly unfolds. When you drift off having planted the seed of your new identity, your conscious mind releases its grip on your life, and the deep mind takes full command. Through the night, it does not rest. It sorts, it connects, it solves. It has access to everything you have ever learned, every conversation, every book, every idea, every face you have ever seen, and it works through it all in search of the pattern that will fulfill the instruction you gave it. This is why people so often wake with sudden insight. Why the solution to a problem arrives in the morning that eluded them all the day before. Why the idea comes in the shower or the moment of waking. The deep mind worked all night on the assignment you gave it before sleep, and this is the astonishing implication you must not miss. Whatever you give the deep mind before sleep becomes its assignment for the entire night. If you fall asleep worrying about a debt, the deep mind works all night deepening the grooves of scarcity, rehearsing the fear, building a life that expects lack. But if you fall asleep in the felt reality of your prosperity, the deep mind works all night, building toward abundance, arranging ideas and drawing opportunities and shaping your very perception so that tomorrow you notice doors you would have walked past yesterday. You are quite literally programming 8 hours of the most powerful mental work available to any human being, and you are doing it every single night whether you choose to or not. The only question is what assignment you hand it. Scripture says he gives to his beloved even in their sleep. Even in sleep the provision is being worked. Even in rest the building continues. The one who plants rightly before sleep wakes to a mind that has been laboring on their behalf through the darkness. Napoleon Hill said that the subconscious mind works continuously day and night, and that through some method which no man fully understands, it draws upon the forces of infinite intelligence to transmute one's desires into their physical equivalent. Day and night it never stops. So the question was never whether your mind works while you sleep. It always has, and it always will. The only question that has ever mattered is what you send it to work on. And now you know. Now you can choose. And now we come to the question I asked you at the very beginning. The question I told you not to answer yet. I asked, if your mind is being programmed every single night whether you like it or not, then who has been holding the pen? And now you know the answer. And the answer is the reason everything can change starting tonight. For most of your life, the pen was held by everyone but you. It was held by your childhood, by the fears you absorbed before you could defend yourself, by the anxious voices at the dinner table, by a culture that whispered that you were not meant for much. Night after night, they wrote your blueprint while you slept, and you never even knew a pen was moving. That is why your life has looked the way it has looked. Not because you lacked effort, not because you lacked worth, but because the blueprint was written by hands that did not have your abundance in mind. And you kept building faithfully from a design you never chose. But here is the glorious turning point, the truth that this entire message has been leading you toward. The pen can be taken back. From this night forward, you are the one who holds it. You are the architect. You decide what is written in the deep place before you sleep. You decide whether the blueprint is fear or faith, scarcity or abundance, the small self of your past or the vast self of your calling. No one can write it for you anymore, not once you know. The knowing is the taking back of the pen, and that is the difference between the person who stays trapped and the person who breaks free. It was never intelligence, it was never luck, it was never even hard work. It was who held the pen. The wealthy hold their own pen. They write their own blueprint. They install their own mind deliberately night after night in the sacred quiet before sleep. And now so can you. The question has been answered. The pen is in your hand. The only thing left is what you will write with it, tonight and every night that follows. So let us practice it together now, one final time, so that you carry it with you into this very night. Wherever you are, let your body soften. If your eyes can close, let them close. Take a slow breath in and let it out even slower, releasing the whole day into the air behind you. Take another, deeper this time, and feel yourself sinking, letting go, growing quiet and still. And one more, the slowest yet, and with it feel that soft twilight door beginning to open, the door to the deep mind that never sleeps. Now in that quiet, speak these words within, gently, with the calm authority of one who knows. I am the architect of my own mind. Wealth flows to me easily and abundantly, for I am a person to whom abundance is drawn. I release every old belief of lack, and I install the mind of prosperity, tonight and every night. I am provided for. I am prospering. I am at peace. And now see it. See yourself living the life these words describe. See the home, the freedom, the generosity, the ease. See the fear gone from your face and gratitude in its place. Feel it as though it is already yours, because in the deep place from this moment it is. And now give thanks. Thank God for the abundance flowing to you. Thank God for the doors opening. Thank God for the new mind being formed in you as you rest. Feel the warmth of that gratitude fill your chest, and then gently let it all go. Release the words, release the image, and simply rest in the knowing that the silent architect is already at work, building through the night the life you have just described. This is the Midnight Blueprint. This is the practice that, repeated with faith, will remake the deepest part of who you are. You do not have to force it. You do not have to strive. You have only to return to this quiet, night after night, and plant the seed, and let the mind that never sleeps do the rest. I want to speak to the one who is tired tonight, the one who has tried so many things and watched so many of them fail, the one who has almost stopped believing that life could ever be different, that the struggle could ever end, that the person you dream of becoming could ever be real. I know that weariness. I know how heavy it is to hope again after hope has disappointed you so many times. But hear this, and let it reach the deep place. Your struggle was never proof that you were destined to lose. It was the sign that the old blueprint was running, a blueprint you never chose, faithfully producing a life you never wanted. And a blueprint can be changed. The very fact that these words found you tonight, out of all the nights and all the voices, is not an accident. Something in you has been reaching for a way out, and tonight a door has opened. The person you long to be is not a fantasy. That person is the truth of who you were created to become, buried under years of borrowed fear. And every night from here forward, you get to uncover a little more of them. You are not starting from nothing. You are starting from a soul that was made in the image of a creator, made to imagine, made to believe, made to bring the invisible into the visible. The wealth you seek, the peace you seek, the freedom you seek, none of it is out beyond your reach. It is inside you, waiting to be installed, waiting to be believed, waiting to be lived. And it begins tonight in the quiet, when you take back the pen and write the first line of a new life. You do not have to see the whole staircase. You only have to plant tonight's seed, then tomorrow's, then the next. And one day, sooner than you can imagine, you will look at your life and hardly recognize it, and you will remember this night as the night everything quietly began to turn. Remember the truth that carried this whole message, the truth you must never let go. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are, so become it. In the silence, become it. Fall asleep as the person you are meant to be, night after night, and watch the world rearrange itself to meet the one you have become. Before you drift into sleep and let the silent architect begin its work, there is one more seed to plant, and this one you plant not only in your own mind, but into the world. If something in these words reached the deep place in you tonight, if you felt an old chain begin to loosen and a new possibility begin to rise, then seal it. Seal it by writing in the comments the declaration that marks your new beginning. Write the words, "Tonight I take back the pen." Say it as a vow to your own soul, because the moment you declare it, your deep mind hears the commitment and begins to build toward it, and you will not fall asleep the same person who woke this morning. And when you tap the like on this video, do not do it as a small meaningless gesture. Do it as an act of agreement with your own becoming, a quiet yes to the new blueprint, a signal to yourself that you are claiming this life and no longer settling for the old one. If you have not yet subscribed, subscribe tonight and stay, because this is not a message you absorb once and master. It is a practice you return to, and night after night these words will come back to you and water the seed until it grows into a tree that reshapes everything. Let this become part of your nightly ritual, a voice that meets you in the quiet and reminds you who you are becoming. And if you know someone who is weary tonight, someone who has been falling asleep in fear, someone who needs to be reminded that the pen can be taken back, then share this with them. You may be handing them the exact door they have been searching for, and the abundance you send out always finds its way back to the one who gives it. So plant these final seeds. Declare your new beginning in the comments. Agree with your becoming with a like. Return again and again by subscribing, and multiply the blessing by sharing it forward. Then close your eyes, release the day, and fall asleep as the architect of your own mind, knowing that while your body rests, a new life is being built in the silence, seed by seed, night by night, until the person you were created to be is the person you simply are. Rest now. The pen is in your hand, and the mind that never sleeps is already at work, building the millionaire's mind you have chosen tonight to install. But before you rest, let me settle one last doubt that may still be lingering. The quiet fear that you are not disciplined enough, that you will start this practice and then forget, that you have begun 100 things and finished few, and that this too will slip away. Release that fear, because this practice was designed for the very weakness you are afraid of. It asks almost nothing of your willpower. It does not demand that you wake before dawn or push through exhaustion, or force yourself against your own nature. It only asks that in the moments you are already lying in bed, already drifting towards sleep, you turn your mind, gently, toward the truth instead of toward the fear. That is all. You are going to fall asleep tonight regardless. The only question is what you will be thinking as you do. And turning your thoughts toward abundance in the last few minutes before sleep is not a heavy discipline. It is the lightest thing in the world. It is easier than worrying, which is what most people do with those same minutes. Worry is exhausting. Faith is restful. So you are not adding a burden to your night. You are replacing a burden, the burden of fear, with a gift, the gift of a mind at peace, building your future while you rest. And on the nights you forget, do not condemn yourself. Do not decide you have failed and give up. Simply return the next night. The soil does not hold a grudge against the farmer who missed a day. It receives the next seed just as faithfully. Consistency is not perfection. Consistency is returning. Miss a night, return. Miss a week, return. The deep mind is patient, and it responds to the direction of your life, not to a single stumble. Napoleon Hill said that persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel, that it is the sustained effort necessary to induce faith, and that those who cultivate the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. Your persistence does not have to be dramatic. It only has to be gentle and faithful, a returning again and again to the open door in the quiet before sleep. Do that, and you cannot fail, because the only way to fail is to stop planting entirely. And you will not stop, because now you understand what is at stake, and now you understand what is possible. So let this be the night it begins. Not with a grand resolution you will strain to keep, but with one simple, gentle turning of your mind toward the truth as you fall asleep. That small turning, repeated with patience, is how a whole life is remade. And it starts now, in the quiet, as you rest. The architect is ready, the door is open, and you at last are holding the pen.